Shields up, Ironbreakers. Yesterday we had the Dragon's Dogma 2 showcase. I live streamed the whole thing here on the channel. You can catch my initial reactions if you want to watch that live stream. But naturally, ahead of the live stream, I also did a brief introduction to the Dragon's Dogma franchise. For those of you that are curious, maybe you've never played Dragon's Dogma at all, I would actually recommend you take a look at that live stream. And I would also like to thank each and every one of you that showed up to the live stream. It brought a lot of joy to my heart to see so many people show up for a Dragon's Dogma stream, simply because I feel like Dragon's Dogma is an IP that never really got its fair share of recognition. But anyway, in today's video, I'm going to be going over all of the information that we got yesterday. We're going to be doing a more in-depth analysis of the trailer. There's going to be a lot of pausing and me telling you guys my thoughts on each thing and, you know, what I think about the mechanics and all of that stuff. Suffice to say, I'm super hyped about Dragon's Dogma 2. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about everything we know so far about the game. And there is quite a lot, as well as there's a lot of speculation to be had in regards to some of the new information that was presented to us. Now, the release date has been officially announced. It had kind of like leaked ahead of time because I think Amazon had leaked it and then Steam leaked it. So, you know, people kind of already knew that this was going to be coming on March 22nd, 2024. So hopefully we don't get any major releases around April, because I want a lot of time to play this game. And let me tell you guys something, you're going to need a lot of time to play this game. This is going to be easily over 100 hours that you're going to be spending if you actually want to explore the game's systems, okay? And also, just a very quick recommendation, if you never played the original, it is currently like $5 on Steam. Please give it a shot, okay? Like, it's the price of like a coffee. I mean, overpriced coffee, but you guys get the idea. It's super cheap on Steam right now, and I would highly recommend you check it out. It is a fantastic video game. So, release date, March 22nd. Now, I already know that a lot of people are going to be bringing up this thing, which is the pre-order bonuses as well as deluxe edition bonuses, since they include items and all of that stuff. Very quick synopsis. I don't think this is a huge deal. I don't like it. I'm not a fan of this type of stuff, as you guys are well aware. I will be going over all of these items at the end of this video for those of you that, you know, want to know more about exactly what is coming. But right now I want to focus on the actual stuff that we've learned that is much more important than these bonuses. So, in case you are interested in going over some of the backstory of some of the characters and all this stuff, these are things that I'm not really going to be covering in the video because I consider part of it is going to be somewhat spoilerish for people that want to go in completely blind. You don't need to know any of this, but for those of you that are passionate and want to know more about the backstory of the world and the characters that are going to be involved in Dragon's Dogma 2, these are all new characters. None of these characters appears in the original Dragon's Dogma, so just in case you guys are curious, oh, is this information that I need to know from the previous game? No. As a matter of fact, I don't think you need to have played the previous game. I just recommend it. But anyways, that was one of the updates that you got on the website. For those of you that are curious and are into the lore and all of that stuff, you can check that stuff out. Then, vocations. Now, for those of you that are not familiar with the concept of vocations when it comes to Dragon's Dogma, I've spoke about this ahead of the stream yesterday, so you really should check that out if you're curious. But very quickly, vocations are kind of like your classes when it comes to Dragon's Dogma. So initially, we knew about the vocations of Fighter, Archer, Thief, Mage, and they also had announced Magic Archer and Mystic Spearhand. And in yesterday's showcase, they've also brought us the Warrior, the Sorcerer, and the Trickster. So a couple of things. These four are your base vocations. What does this mean? These are the vocations that you're going to be getting access to once you create your character. So basically you create your character and they tell you, hey, you want to be a fighter, you want to be an archer, you want to be a thief, or you want to be a mage. This is not a permanent choice in the world of Dragon's Dogma. So you choose whichever one you want, and then you're like, you know what, I don't like fighter, I want to be a mage. You can swap that around. And these vocations, you will also gain access to more advanced vocations, such as the warrior. The warrior is a natural evolution of the fighter. So the fighter is your base one, sword and shield guy, get in there, beat stuff up, and you have a shield and all of that stuff, right? Basic class. Then the kind of like evolution is big two-handed. So if you're into like great swords and all that stuff when it comes to Monster Hunter, Warrior is going to be your jam. And there's going to be some gameplay a little bit ahead in this video that you don't want to miss, which is the fight with this dragon, because they actually showed us this. It is friggin' awesome, okay? So Warrior, big two-handed dude. Sorcerer, big caster, big spells. You guys have no idea. Look at this thing right here. You guys are going to be seeing this in the video later as well. The Grand Bolide, which is an absolute beast of a spell. Okay? Then, the Magic Archer. This is a spellcaster. This is one of the classes that was already announced. It is a spellcaster that uses a bow and it shoots magical arrows. It's pretty cool. And then you have your Mystic Spearhand, which was another one that had been revealed. This appears to maybe take the place of the Mystic Knight, for those of you who are familiar with the Mystic Knight, since it's also the combination of the fighter and mage classes, which was essentially the thing that the Mystic Knight was known for, was like a combo. So I don't know if if the Mystic Knight is still coming or not, but you know, it is what it is. And then a new vocation was announced, which is the Trickster. Now, again, there's going to be a video that we're going to be pausing through multiple times and examining in greater detail. But it is essentially more like a support spellcaster that is going to be able to buff your pawn party, and at the same time is able to create these illusions that I'm assuming also deal damage and all kinds of stuff. But it appears to be more of a character, by the description of the developers themselves, that is going to kind of like hang back and do support stuff, more kind of like a general type character. So if you're into that stuff, you're going to be into this. It's not really my kind of playstyle, but an interesting thing to discuss when it comes to the Trickster that leaves a lot of room for speculation is, if you pay attention to the warrior here, the background of his symbol is red, because it symbolizes that this is something that comes from the line of the fighter. It doesn't mean that you need to play a fighter, at least it didn't in the original Dragon's Dogma, in order to then go to a warrior. You can actually start as an archer and then go into a warrior, if that's what you want, assuming that things are somewhat similar to the original Dragon's Dogma. So you don't have to play this to get to this, but fundamentally, the red background signifies that, like, hey, this is in line with this class. If you go to the blue background, naturally, you can tell that, okay, so the sorcerer is in line with the mage. Makes sense. If you go to the magic archer, you'll notice that you have blue and yellow. So what does that mean? That means that you have the archer mixed in with the mage. You get the magic archer. Makes perfect sense. Again, you have the Mystic Spearhand. What is this? It is a warrior mixed in with the sorcerer, or, you know, the mage mixed in with the fighter, right? Red and blue. Okay, now here we have purple and pink. There's no base vocation that is purple and pink. Now, I don't know if this means that we're going to be getting 2 more base vocations, or if this is a combination of more advanced vocations. I honestly don't know what the deal is. People can come up with color theory and say, oh, it's like a mix of mage and fighter and blah, 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 blah. But it's like, at the end of the day, we don't really know. We just don't know. But it is definitely interesting because all of these backgrounds have symbolism behind them, with yellow clearly being your ranged archer character, green being your rogue type character, all of that. And then you have the Trickster that has purple and pink. It's just a weird thing. But anyways, the Trickster seems like an interesting vocation to have, and I think it is definitely going to open up some interesting play styles, which is always a good thing. Now, another important thing to know, you are going to be playing your character, which is in the Arisen, and you're going to have a main pawn. For those of you that never played Dragon's Dogma, your main pawn is fully customizable by you, pretty much like your player character. The only difference is that it is controlled by AI instead of it being controlled by yourself. So you get to choose the vocation of your pawn as well, and it's also not set in stone. You can change it whenever you want. Now, the thing is, your pawn doesn't have access to every class. It only has access to more basic vocations. So, for instance, your pawn can be a warrior. Your pawn can be a sorcerer. As a matter of fact, yesterday the sorcerer was marked as an Arisen-only class, and seems like they fixed that up on the website real quick. But yeah, all of these your pawn can be a warrior, a sorcerer, a mage, thief, blah, blah, blah. But whenever you get to the more advanced ones, like the magic archer, the mystic spearhand, and the trickster, your pawn cannot be these more advanced vocations. So just keep that in mind. Now, I want to go over the trailer that we got yesterday. and I'm going to be pausing as we play through the trailer. There will be links to the official trailer in the description of this video in case you guys want to watch the official trailer, in case you guys want to watch the official showcase. All of that stuff is going to be in the description of this because I am going to be pausing these videos quite often, so bear with me. Anyway, let's get to it.
At last! The bell has tolled on the age of the console. The return of the Sovereign.
Now, let me just say one thing straight off the bat. YouTube is not going to do this video or even the official trailer justice when it comes to graphical fidelity. This game is going to be using the RE engine, and this is going to be one of the most ambitious RE engine games to date because you're going to have a massive open world. With the level of detail that has been shown, it is going to be completely insane.
Welcome, Arisen.
So that right there, for those of you that are not familiar, is the symbol of the pawns. Interestingly enough, the symbol of the pawns for this game is slightly different from the symbol of the pawns in the original Dragon's Dogma. This symbol on her hand is different from the one in the original Dragon's Dogma. And again, for those of you that are not aware, this game takes place in a parallel world. So this does not take place in the same world as the original Dragon's Dogma.
We pawns have long awaited your arrival.
Now, a cool thing that I saw right there, and hopefully most of you guys saw it. So we have a fight, at least I'm assuming this is a fighter right here, just battling out a couple of dudes and whatnot. And then it swaps us over to an archer. And I want you to pay attention to this move on the archer, because previously in the original Dragon's Dogma, the archer class was the strider, which could then be evolved into the ranger. And the thing about strider and ranger is that this is a class that was utilizing two weapons. You had the daggers, and then you had the bow. And it was a combination of those two things that made your class. They're changing that because they've separated those vocations, as you guys can see here. As a matter of fact, let me swap the resolution on this video because YouTube's like struggling to render it properly. But as you can see here, you now have the archer and the thief, and they're separated, the dual dagger as well as the bow user. So what this allows you to do is it allows them to really custom craft a class that is more about using the bow. And this animation that you see right here is a clear indication of that, which I don't think this was in the original. Now, I don't really play pure archers, so maybe I could be wrong, but I don't think that this particular attack was in the original game. If you guys notice, the archer is now going to jump up against the goblins, kick them, and then jump back into the air and start shooting from the air, which is really cool. You don't really see it shoot from the air, but you're going to be able to, like, you know, he's going to backflip and then shoot into the air, 100%. This right here is a rift portal. We're going to be seeing those in more detail further ahead in the video. Now, on this particular scene, you can see this figure right here. And initially I was thinking, wait, so besides the lion-looking people, the race of beast wren, we're also going to have some type of bird-looking people. But I actually have like a zoomed in version of this. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. And right here. See, I zoomed this in on yesterday's stream because I was like, oh, this looks like some kind of a bird person. But the reality is, no, this is most likely just a helmet that's got like a beak thing on top for some reason. And this right here is actually just cloth. And it almost makes it seem like this person has a bird tail. Maybe I was looking a little bit too much into this, but everything indicates that this is just a set of armor made to look like a bird. Maybe I'm wrong, but, you know, in my initial conclusions, that's what I would say. Particularly because if you pay attention, these characters are running when you get to this cutscene, which is why the cloth is like pulled back.
What you can of this world you must protect.
So an interesting thing that was revealed by the developers, and this is not something that I'm going to dive too deeply, is that the Beast Ren Nation apparently does not like pawns, which is interesting.
We ask that all be spared the horrors of the fell
Bro,
dragon.
the visuals of this, brutal.
From this moment forth, thou art arisen.
Classical scene.
Charge and do.
Magic Archer.
Here's my chance.
If you're discovered, yours won't be the only head that rolls. What is your purpose here?
When 'twas all but certain that her son would take his father's place. Word reached.
So an interesting thing here, it seems like they're going for a political intrigue storyline, which there was already political intrigue in the original Dragon's Dogma, but it seems like they're double downing on that specific theme. So they definitely appear to be putting a lot more emphasis when it comes to the story of Dragon's Dogma, which the story of the original, let's just say that Bitter Black Isle, in my opinion, was much better, whereas the original felt like, you know, there might have been some budget constraints there when it came to the main story, and, you know, hopefully they improve on that significantly for the second one.
That the arisen had been found.
Pitiable arisen.
This Minotaur beast looks friggin' awesome. This is a brand new monster. I think it looks amazing.
Dost thou fight?
Arisen.
You need only believe
Cyclops.
in your own destiny,
Dude,
Arisen.
Mystic Spearhand looks badass. The new Talos monster. We're going to be doing a deep dive on this one in this video as well.
Show me the path thou wouldst walk.
If ye intend to do what I could not,
And here's another thing. This right here is a clear callback to another scene from the original Dragon's Dogma, where this is an Arisen, another Arisen. So not your character, but another Arisen that came before you. And I'm assuming he probably failed on his charge to kill the dragon, and so he just kind of lives in isolation. This is in Dragon's Dogma 1. This was almost like a mentor figure of sorts. But yeah, it's a cool character.
and fell the dragon.
Should be a cool character at least.
I would gladly pass all the wisdom I possess into your hands.
There it is. There it is. That is the trailer. The trailer is friggin' awesome, but we've learned quite a few more things after the trailer. So like I said, number one, the Talos monster. So they gave us an in-depth look at what the Talos battle looks like, and it is absolutely impressive. There's some serious Shadow of Colossus vibes in here, which, by the way, the whole of Dragon's Dogma kind of has Shadow of the Colossus vibes to begin with, for those of you that are not aware. You're able to, like, climb up monsters, do all of these crazy things, but let's have a look-see at the Talos
Emerging
encounter
suddenly
here
from
again.
the sea, we meet the giant Talos, who appears for the first time in this game, and who you will have to figure out how to stop.
I almost wish they hadn't showcased this monster, because it would have been so cool to see it for the first time in the game. And I hope that there are more moments like this, where like a big looming threat shows up, right? So we have Ballista. This was already something that, if I remember correctly, we had ballistas in the original Dragon's Dogma. It's just they weren't, I mean, they were effective, actually. I don't know. You just don't use them enough to be that memorable. But, you know, there's going to be apparently ballista emplacements that you'll be able to use during this particular fight.
We've prepared some additional gameplay footage of Talos, so take a look.
And by the way, that shield looks friggin' sweet. This armor set, by the way, those of you that played the original Dragon's Dogma, this armor, if you used heavy armor, this is going to bring back some memories, because this looks very much like one of the endgame sets that you would get in the original Dragon's Dogma. Particularly the helmet. Now, one of the things that I want to call to your attention is just look at the destruction this creature is wreaking upon the world. Now, I don't think that this is an instance thing, like off the open world. I could be wrong. Maybe this is just like a mission, and when this is happening, you know, the open world dynamics aren't occurring. But I don't think that's the case. I believe that this is going to be very much, you know, there is going to be a little bit of a scripted element to it because the Talos is advancing towards an objective. But I think that the interactions themselves are going to be unscripted. And I think that one of the cool things will be, you know, he's wreaking all of this destruction in the scenery, and there's physics associated with every one of these things. So, like, you could be standing on this bridge as he's just, like, barreling through and smashing through everything, and then you'll fall down because there'll be physics and all that. But an interesting detail, which I would very much like to see, is I would like there to be NPCs here after the encounter takes place, repairing the bridges and doing all of that. I don't know if that's going to be the case, if the world's just going to regenerate by itself or not, but I think it would be cool, like, if after this Talos encounter for, like, you know, an in-game week or something, there's just NPCs in here fixing this up, and then after the week, everything's, like, regenerated and stuff. That would be cool, but whether or not that's going to be the case, I don't know. Maybe I'm asking for a bit too much here. But the level of destruction is impressive. Like, look at that. Did you see the big rock fall down? Like, look at that. It didn't just crush like this tiny wooden bridge. Like, that big rock formation falls down. And hopefully it would inflict damage on him as well.
Possibly impel a being of such size to motion.
Now, here it is, one of the key features of Dragon's Dogma. You could already do this in the first one against pretty much every single monster in the game. You get to grab on. Now, the important thing to mention here is if you've never played Dragon's Dogma, is there's a stamina system in play. So you can't just, like, grab on forever. You have some limits. So you have to make sure that you grab on in the right position. And a lot of times, one of the things that I would actually do, because, like, once you grab on, you're essentially crawling on top of the monster. In the original, you could also, like, press the jump button, and then your character would jump up, and then you would grab again, and that would kind of, like, allow you to shortcut almost through certain sections of the monster.
I cannot but fear to
As you
bring
can see,
ruin wherever it treads.
these purple things are going to be its weak spots. I mean, that was fairly obvious. So the objective is going to be to hit those weak spots, maneuver yourself into position, and smash those weak spots. I find it interesting that they're using these birds here to kind of, like, fly over to the Talos, because these are hostile to you. You can grab onto them, but I don't know if there's any guarantee that they'll actually fly towards the monster. And here it happened, unless they let you kind of, like, control them, which I don't think you could in the original. But in here it ends up, you know, flying him towards the Talos. But I don't think there's a guarantee that that's going to happen, because these are hostile creatures. They're not like your minions or anything.
It's hulking prey.
And you can see one of them swoops in to attack you.
Whatever we can to slow it down. It might prove futile, but
Now, I'm actually curious, because, like, you see him going for the eye that's been stabbed with something, but there was another perfectly good eye on the other side. I wonder why they don't attack that one instead. Visuals absolutely gorgeous.
Destruction is a nuisance nobody asked for. Let us be rid of it. Indeed. And where is it bound, I wonder?
Left unhindered, will trample the world entire.
I feel like they should have used an archer special attack here to showcase the archer's potential. Like, you're not just going to be doing this in the game, trust me. Like, for those of you that are interested in archers, by the way, I'm not even a huge fan of bow mains, obviously, but you guys get the point. For those of you interested in archers, trust me, this is not a good representation of what your gameplay is going to look like, all right? Not only you should be able to do special skills right here, which are actually much more powerful attacks than the one that he's doing, but you also get a choice of different types of arrows, including blast arrows, which cause explosions, but they should be pricey because they're one of the most powerful items in the game. Friggin' blast arrows destroy everything in Dragon's Dogma. But yes, there's plenty more to archery than just this.
Try to delay its course by any means.
Now, this is really cool. He throws the spear, and he busts up another bridge. This is another one of the things that I really hope that you will need NPCs to go and fix that bridge. Maybe the player can even, like, I don't know, donate to make the repairs faster or something. I hope there's an in-game system that takes into account all of this destruction into the open world simulation.
You can see, you'll be able to enjoy a variety of combat experiences depending on how you choose to tackle each situation. Keep your eyes peeled for more on Talos and its role.
All right, so that is the Talos boss fight, which is a new boss fight. Looks absolutely amazing. And expect plenty more boss fights like that, by the way. Like, it's not just going to be a one-and-done Talos thing. Like, just the number of monsters that you even fight in the original Dragon's Dogma is absolutely insane, and how different each of those monsters needs to be tackled is also really cool. Like, to give you an idea, you fight dragons, which is one of the things that we'll be seeing a little bit later in the video here, and you actually need to fight those dragons in order to dragon forge your weapons, which is like take them from almost like, let's say you have a cap of upgrades up to level 3, and then you would have to dragon forge it to go to level 4 and 5 and 6, and it's really, really cool. You basically need to forge your weapon in the heat of battle. Now, in here, the main reason why I wanted to bring up this particular section is to tell you guys there is an elven civilization in this game. This is kind of a big deal because I don't think there were any elves in the original Dragon's Dogma. So this time around, you have not only humans, but you have humans, you have elves, and you have beastren, which are those lion-looking things, right? So kind of cool, gives you an even more high fantasy setting. I would love to see dwarves. Most likely that's not going to happen, but at the very least, with the character creator in this game, you're going to be able to create a dwarf. And speaking of the character creator, I figured that I would bring that up. I don't know if it comes up later. I want to go through things in order. So, another very important thing that they've done is pawns this time around are going to have a specialization. So I'm going to let the director himself tell us a little bit more about that.
And while the Arisen doesn't understand the language of the elves,
and the reason he's bringing up the language of the elves is because in this game, in this footage earlier, you hear the elves speaking and you can't really understand them, right? So the elves are going to speak their own language. But if your pawn knows how to speak Elvish, he's going to translate for you.
if there's a pawn nearby who does, they will automatically translate it for you. These specializations.
So right here we can see that this is a pawn screen. It shows you what the pawn is. So this is the pawn's name, and this is the arisen, the owner of that pawn, because ideally you'll be playing online and every pawn that you hire is going to be a pawn from another player. So this would be the pawn's name, this would be the player's name that created that pawn. And then you can see here that it's got an inclination. The inclination is going to dictate how your pawn behaves in battle. And then he has a specialization. And it seems that a pawn can only have one specialization. I don't know if that is going to be the case. Maybe they can have more than one. But from the UI elements here, it seems like they'll only be able to have one specialization. And in the case of Woodland Wordsmith, it means that this pawn can interpret Elvish for the Arisen, which is pretty cool. But there are also other really cool things that pawns can do, apparently.
That pawns can acquire will make each of them more unique and hopefully more enjoyable.
So I want you to pay close attention to this. Let's actually scroll back 10 seconds so that you guys can actually see it.
And hopefully,
notice here how our character is very heavy. So initially when I first saw this clip, because I was just like reacting in the moment, I didn't really get my analytical brain mode on. But I was like, why is this relevant? Why is this character very heavy? Whatever. But I want you to pay attention. Your character is very heavy, and they're talking about specializations of pawns, and you're going to see something pop up about here.
More enjoyable to journey with.
I'll see to it your...
So what the pawn is saying, I'll see to it your burdens are shared among us pawns. And you'll notice that there's a logistician thing that pops up. So I'm assuming that logistician is the specialty of this pawn that is speaking. So it's not this character is your Arisen, but there's a pawn in his party that is going to have this logistician specialization. And as you can see, you see an item here, Salubrious Draught. So what this tells me is that the pawn essentially took this item from your inventory and placed it in his own inventory. Now, I know for a lot of players, you're going to hear this, going to be like, I don't want the pawn messing with my inventory. Trust me. Yes, you do. If you played the original Dragon's Dogma, having a pawn take stuff away from your inventory and placing it in his is actually a very good thing, because it's going to mean you don't need to spend as much time managing your inventory, because the pawns will essentially do it for you and spread the load. As a matter of fact, I hope that this specialization allows you to go up to the pawn and just say, hey, I want to be kept under this level of weight at all times, and the pawn will automatically redistribute stuff. This is a massive thing to have, by the way. So you're definitely, I mean, assuming that this works like I think it does, which is it basically takes stuff from your inventory, puts it into other pawns' inventory, this is going to be a really good thing to have to just prevent you from constantly having to fiddle with your inventory.
Burdens are shared between us pawns.
Now, the character creator. Let me take a sip of water here. The character creator, I've said this yesterday during the live stream, this is one of the best character creators in the industry, in my opinion. Now, I know that a lot of people, they love their sliders, like, oh, make my cheekbones a little bit bigger, blah, blah, blah. In the original Dragon's Dogma, what they did is they just gave you like 60 different templates to a face, which to me is way cooler than like messing with the individual little parameters. And this one is an actual evolution of that I really, really like what they've shown.
It's not only the pawn's personality that reflects the player.
So this is if you want to make a Beastren. So as you can see, there's going to be specific things about the Beastren. Sorry about that notification noise. There's going to be specific things about the Beastren that you'll be able to do, like their patterns, their colors, their fur types, the thickness of their fur, all of that stuff, which is insane. But there are even cooler things that is going to be showcasing.
Game, the player can freely create the Arisen and the main pawn.
So another cool thing here is you can essentially make your character look like an elf by fiddling with the tips of the character's ears. Like, I just think this is a cool thing. Even if your character is considered to be a human, it's nice that you get to basically choose, no, I want to be an elf, whatever, okay? Because I'm going to choose to be a dwarf, and I'm going to make a dwarf. It's that simple. It's awesome that you can actually do that. It is also important to mention, which I don't remember if they mentioned this in the presentation, but like, notice how there's a weight setting here. There's also going to be a height setting to your character. And these are settings that actually have gameplay implications. So if your character is heavy enough, he's going to be able to like restrain other characters. If your character is more light, it's not going to be as easy for him to restrain other characters. A lot of characters you will simply not be able to restrain at all. But because you are lighter, you maybe consume less stamina with your movements. You maybe, maybe you're easier to dodge when other characters are trying to grab you, so on and so forth. So there's advantages and disadvantages to everything. Your height also determines whether or not you can grab a character, what are the things that you can pick up. There's tons and tons of implications for things like this.
However, we've used photogrammetry technology
and
to
the visuals
increase
look amazing.
photorealism, while adding a way to simplify the process of creating characters.
Now, this is a really cool thing because if you pay attention, what's going to happen is they're going to generate a bunch of templates around the basic face that you choose. And then based on that, you're going to choose which one you think you like better. And then they're going to generate a couple of more. Okay, they're going to generate some more until you can kind of like fine tune the character that you actually want.
Selecting images that resemble the kind of look you have in mind provides a more intuitive way to create your idea.
Like, did you see that? How it just like generated, like if you pay attention here, right?
Images
They're
that
going to pick
resemble
this
the
face.
kind of look you have in mind provides a more intuitive way to create.
And then it generates all of these faces based off of this one. And then let's say, oh, I like this one more. So you click this one and then it generates more until you're happy. I hope that you can keep going with this until you're happy because this is like so good, dude. And then I'm assuming that you'll be able to still fine-tune some of the details of that face.
Your ideal character.
But that's a really cool system. Now, like I said, there's a new vocation that they've shown. This was not in the previous Dragon's Dogma. This is a brand new one, the Censor, whatever he's called, the Trickster,
Now,
which is the
I
Censor.
want to introduce the Trickster, a new vocation that's sure to bring something unique to your gameplay experience. Exclusive to the Arisen, the Trickster is a vocation that wields the Censor and uses the smoke it produces.
Notice how in here it created an image and everything attacked that image. That is actually really good. In case you guys aren't aware, being able to misdirect attention to a specific target is a really good thing in Dragon's Dogma because it takes them away from your pawns if they're in trouble, takes them away from you if you're in trouble. You know, being able to control mobs like this is extremely powerful.
Conjure illusions. By confusing the enemy into fighting themselves through illusions,
You can also get them to
or
fight
increasing
each
the
other.
power of pawns beyond the normal parameters for a limited period of time.
And then you essentially have, you know, one of those dusts that you have in Monster Hunter that he did right there, which buffs everyone.
This vocation focuses on support and use of unique strategies. The Trickster is a devious vocation that takes advantage of the
Just straight up summons a dragon to roar a griffin out of the sky because why not?
enemy's enhanced behavior AI.
It is really cool.
It's a great fit for players who prefer to step back from the action and manipulate the battle from the sidelines.
It's super good. Now, they're going to, and here they were continuing with some product information, but I have some more stuff that I want to show you. Okay, so right here are two boss fights that they didn't really show in any of the other footage. And we're going to be watching those boss fights because they look freaking badass.
Let us show you some footage of the monsters we couldn't cover today. The Drake and the Doulahan, along with the Warrior and Sorcerer vocations, which were also in the first game.
So these are advanced vocations. They're not your base vocations, but these were available super early on. Like in the original Dragon's Dogma, when you get to level 10 and you get the Grand Sorin, which is the capital, you basically can swap into these vocations.
Thank you so much.
Okay, show us the gameplay. Okay, so that's the warrior right there. In case you guys are wondering, why is this sword on fire? Because you didn't play the original Dragon's Dogma. This is an enchantment that mages do. So it's not the warrior himself that is placing the sword on fire. There's a mage in his party that is casting a fire enchantment. You can see that the fighter here is also fire enchanted because his shield is on fire and his blade will be on fire as well. So one of the interesting things is that the player character roars at the start here. I'm not sure if that's a buff, of what that is, but it's really cool. Another thing that I want to point out is pay attention to the detail on the special effects on this dragon. Absolutely gorgeous, but at the same time, not entirely overwhelming. See, this is one of the criticisms that I have whenever I talk about something like Unreal Engine, because this game is running on RE Engine, and I'm sure there's going to be a million comparisons between this and RE Engine. My experience in RE Engine games, something like this would usually be an absolute bukkake of particle effects blasted all over your screen to the point where you can't even see shit. And in Dragon's Dogma, they're like, no, here's a big-ass beam attack, looks friggin' impressive, does not need to overload your monitor with particle effects. Friggin' thank you. The climbing mechanic here. Now, an interesting thing that he does here, I don't remember if you could do this in the original or not, but like, he climbs up, but after he climbs up, he actually lets go. Like, he's straight up walking on top of the monster. I don't remember if you could do this in the original. I think in the original you had to be in grabbing mode the whole time. And you might be wondering, what's the difference? The difference is being in grabbing mode is always consuming your stamina. So if there's an evolution of the system to where you can actually just stand on top of the monster without being grabbed, it means you can recover your stamina. And it means that you can, you know, attack the monster without being in a state of losing stamina, which is really, really cool. And here, boom, just slashing at the head. Absolutely beautiful. And now watch that. This is one of my favorite things about this game is just the impactfulness of the animations and the combat sequences. Like, I want you to pay attention to what's about to happen. He's charging his attack. That's one of the defining things about the warrior. Charges attacks like a greatsword, right? And boom. Chopped a horn of the dragon clean off. They cut away, but like, look at this. It is so viscerally satisfying when this happens in this game that it cannot be expressed. You cannot just like see it and understand how it feels until you experience it in game. Very much like in Monster Hunter, when you first chop a tail. It is something that when you see it, you don't understand how visceral it feels. But when you experience it in the game, you're like, God damn, so good. But that's the Drake. And then this is the Dullahan or whatever it's called. That's really impressive. I love the freaking ragdoll physics too. Look at how her arm is like all busted up from falling. She's like all twisted. Now here's a cool thing. Now, one of the things that I've always said about Dragon's Dogma is that it has some of the most impressive spell casting of any video game, okay? When you're talking about Dragon's Dogma, you're not talking about only because a little fireball, a little pew, pew. No. You're about to see something which I think it's called sync casting or dual casting, whatever the crap. I didn't really play casters much when it came to the original Dragon's Dogma. I had like a casting pawn, which did most of my damage, if I'm to be honest. But I myself am always in the fray, melee. Sometimes I would pull out a bow, but usually I'm more of a melee type of guy than a caster. But I want you to pay close attention to this sync casting, because this character is going to join this other character in casting the same spell, and I just want you to watch the result. See, that's a friggin' meteor shower where you actually see the meteor coming in and it just explodes right on top of the monster, and it is gorgeous. And there's another spell that I'm going to be showing you later in the video that I think is going to blow your minds. But yeah, that right there is a grand bolide. And in case you didn't see it, there were more meteors falling. It's a meteor shower. It's not one meteor. It's like, it is amazing. But naturally, they faded it out to basically give you something to look forward to when you actually play the game. Now, after the showcase, there was a post-show. Super Rad was actually a part of it. You guys should be familiar with Super Rad. He's been on the podcast. I interact with him on Twitter often. But, there was a post-show, and I picked out what I thought were some of the coolest things about the post-show. Now, I'm going to be having it muted because I just want to show you and I want to talk over it. But one of the first things that we're going to be seeing here, I believe, this is the Riftstone. So previously in the original Dragon's Dogma, in order to access the Riftstone, it meant that you would go into a loading screen. So this is clearly one of the things that they wanted to show off. So what this Riftstone does is it enables you to go and manage your pawns. See, the idea with Dragon's Dogma is that you have a party of 3 pawns and your main character. So it's a party of 4. You have your main character, your main pawn, which is absolutely controlled by you, levels up with you, all of that stuff. And then you have 2 other pawns that you go get, which will ideally be from other players. But if you want to play completely offline, they will be generated by the game itself, and they will just be NPC companions. You will get to choose companions that have spells that you want, or that have abilities that you want, or I'm assuming even specializations that you would want. But basically, this is how you do it. You go into the Riftstone and just look. Look at how seamless it is now. You press it, you're in the Rift, no loading screen, no nothing, pawns start showing up, and then you just take your pick. For those of you that are curious, there are menus that allow you to kind of like filter out the different pawns that you get and all of that stuff, but I just wanted to show you what the experience is like in real time. Like Super Rad is playing it right here. And as you can see, that was straight up real time. You touch the Riftstone, boom, bop, all the pawns show up. Really, really cool. No loading screens, nothing like that. So, and then you just go ahead and you choose whatever pawn you want to play. Now, another thing was, in here we have a menu, and I just wanted to give an overall look at the menu. You can see that there's a zoomed out version of the map here, and they also show you the control scheme. The control scheme, you guys can pause this video and you can see it for yourselves, but this is basically the same control scheme that we had in the original Dragon's Dogma. There's nothing really different here. And you can see that there's like a little window with your party and all of that stuff. But this was just to show you that menu. Sorry about that. And there's also, you know, item management, all of that stuff. Pretty much the same stuff that you had in the original Dragon's Dogma. Seems like the UI has been slightly improved, but not massively different. Another important thing here is that you will notice that this menu also includes the character's name. And this is going to be important because of the next section that I'm going to show you, which is going to be here, where there's going to be level ups. But naturally, before the level ups themselves, I mean, we just have to see this because this is one of my favorite things to do in Dragon's Dogma.
Yes.
You guys ever played Toss the Goblin? No? I mean, look, this goblin right here is on fire, and Super Rad just took it upon himself to help him out. I think this is the right thing to do, right?
The drink.
It's on fire. I gotta help.
And that is something that you can absolutely do in Dragon's Dogma. You can do it in Dragon's Dogma 1, and it is amazing. And I can't wait to yeet goblins and other creatures off of cliffs. Very, very satisfying. Now, another thing that I wanted to point out in this clip is notice that he levels up. Now, I want you to pay attention to this symbol right here, which almost looks like the chest scar that the Arisen has. So this symbolizes, oh, your Arisen leveled up. He is now level 6.
Oh, leveled
as
up.
well
Nice.
as pay attention to this. So, right now, Super Rad is the Archer class. And he leveled up from 5 to 6, and notice the stat gains that he's getting. He's getting plus 23 hit points, plus 17 stamina. Bear in mind, all of this is subject to change. Naturally, this is a development build, all of that, but all of this is subject to change. But this actually reinforces one of my fears that I had for Dragon's Dogma. Now, for those of you that are not aware, when it comes to Dragon's Dogma, the character that you level up in is actually important, because you can choose any vocation that you want to play. But if you level up while playing that vocation, that is going to dictate the stats that you get while you are playing said vocation. This is a feature that I'm not a huge fan of. It's not a massive deal breaker, but for people that really like to min-max, this basically dictates, okay, if you want to min-max, you should be playing this class for this amount of levels, and then you can swap to the class that you actually want to play. Like, for instance, in the original, if you wanted to play an offensive Mystic Knight, you would actually want to level up as a sorcerer for a huge part of the game to get a bunch of spell damage or magic, whatever you call it, and then you swap to the Mystic Knight because you're going to take advantage of all those stats that you've been accruing by playing as a sorcerer. It was one of my least favorite features of the original, and it seems like that is still going to be the way that it works, because if you notice, he is leveling up as an archer. These are the stats that he is getting. And now his main pawn is going to level up as well. Now notice the symbol here. It's got the hand symbol and the scar markings that the pawns have, right? So this is the pawn. The max pawn is it's the pawn of this development build. You always see this particular character in this development build. And if you pay attention to it, you're going to see he gains less hit points because it's a mage, gains less stamina, again, because it's a mage, but gains more magic. So whereas when Super Rad leveled, he gained 5 magic and 2 strength, the caster, I'm assuming that's a mage. Yeah, that's a mage. The mage main pawn got more magic. So yes, definitely the classes that you are playing appear to still influence the stats as you level up. which is an important thing to keep in mind. Now, the next thing, this was just a very quick snippet so that we could take a look at what the map looks like. This is the actual map of the game, because previously in the main menu, you saw a brief snippet of like a zoomed out map. This is what the map actually looks like, which is an improvement of the original, in my opinion. There's a lot more legibility to this particular map than the original map, so that's a good thing. That was just to show you the map right there. These are just like snippets from the post show. So here's another snippet. This is just to show a little bit of two-handed gameplay that I know this is the thief class. I know there's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna be interested in this class, so I figured I'd showcase this.
Oh, he's gone.
Krista's the one playing here, and just look at this.
Now you're gonna get.
Become delicious.
Now
dinner.
you're gonna get this.
Oh.
Now you're gonna get this. Become delicious dinner. Canada.
Got a shield.
Oh, I just went through the box. Okay.
I like that.
Which I think is really, really cool gameplay. Now, I did tell you guys that I was going to show you one more spell, and that happened here during this part of the post showcase. We don't really need audio for this one, but I want you to pay attention because I think Max is the one casting it. So I want you to pay attention because a spell is about to be cast. Not the lightning spell. Here it comes now. Pay attention now. Boof! Now, this is an ice spell. And a really cool thing about ice spells when it came to the original Dragon's Dogma is, like, you know, unlike a lightning spell, which is very much ethereal, or a fireball spell, these are all like ethereal things, right? There's no real physical form to the spell. It's just like, oh, it's a ball of flames. It explodes. In the case of a meteor, clearly there's like a physical portion to the spell. But in the case of like just a fireball or just a lightning, it's just an ethereal thing. But when you're talking about a big pile of ice like this, there's clearly meant to be a physical manifestation of it in the game. And this was always one of the things that impressed me the most about the original Dragon's Dogma, is that spells like this actually linger in the terrain. And they have an effect. Like, you see it breaks, but these rocks are still here. And you'll notice that they stay around for quite a while. So you can actually climb on top of those rocks. There's a physicality to them. There's physics to them. You don't clip through them, at least in the original. I'm assuming it's the same thing in Dragon's Dogma too. But you can actually climb up those rocks and jump off the rocks. And there was even like platforms that you could create in the original Dragon's Dogma. So that's another really cool thing about spells. As a matter, like, look, it's still there. As a matter of fact, in the original, there was like this spell, I forget the name of it. I'm sure that people who played casters more than me can tell you, which were these tendrils that would shoot out like ice tendrils, and they would stay in the map for a while, and you could climb on them and do stuff. And it's really, really cool. See, it's still there. Anyway, that was another spell. And then in here, we have something that is also really cool. Unfortunately, the bitrate doesn't really give us like the full experience, but let me actually go ahead and turn the audio on here.
Here we go.
They're gonna cook. Oh wait, this is sped up.
Oh, we gotta cut some.
Whoa! Look at that. That just looks straight up like real food. And unfortunately, the quality that we have on YouTube doesn't really let us appreciate just the level of detail that is shown here. I am so curious to see this thing in game. This is insane.
Oh my gosh.
Aren't you hungry now?
Look at that.
It just I look at this, and to me it's just like, bro, this has to have been filmed. This can't be in game. Maybe it's not in game. Maybe it's just they just straight up filmed it and then they just show it in game. They just filmed a bunch of dishes and then they just show it, which is why I'm super curious to actually see this in game, because this is insane.
It's Wagyu. Capcom meat cooking is always top notch.
It just looks like Wagyu for sure. For sure it looks like Wagyu. Anyway, so here's another important tidbit, which is previously, whenever you were resurrecting pawns, it was an instant action. So you'd go up to the pawn, press the button, bloop, pawn just gets back up. Now there's going to be a bit of a cast timer to it. So you need to hold the button for a little bit, and then you resurrect the pawn. But To compensate for that, the pawn comes with more health, whereas in the previous game, you would do it instantly, but the pawn would come back with less health. I think it's important to have some commitment to resurrecting pawns. I think it was too easy to resurrect pawns in the original Dragon's Dogma, so this is actually something that I'm happy about seeing. And then finally, oh, damn it, I closed that off before some of the other animations. There was a really cool animation of the ogre bonking this dude in the head, but, you know, we won't be able to show that now. But anyway, you still get to see the butt stomp. Like, look at this. Boosh! Murdered. Now, I want you also to pay attention to this. Use Wakestone, held 1. So, Wakestones is basically something that allows you to resurrect, but it is a consumable. This is important because we're going to be talking about the pre-order items after I'm done here. Now, continuing, he's going to resurrect. And the really cool thing that happens in this scene, I want you to really pay attention to this. They're going to hit him in the legs, and eventually a mage is actually going to freeze this Cyclops, and the Cyclops is going to fall over. And you'll see just why this is so important and so impressive. Like, watch here. See, he gets hit by the frost thing, he's starting to freeze, and now he's going to fall over. Now, I want you to pay attention. While the Cyclops is falling over, the player is grabbed onto the Cyclops, right? Boom, full physics. He hits a tree, doesn't clip through it, doesn't, you know, do any random nonsense. He actually physically hits the tree. Proper physics simulation while the player is attached to the monster and climbing it. And look at him. He's like perched over because this tree is broken. And now his head is just like leaning over the tree. Like, look at this. Proper physics simulation in a... You can also see that there's a pawn in here. Sarah is just glitching balls, okay? She's just glitching balls right now. But, like, look, I cannot express how impressive this is. I know that some people are going to downplay this like, big deal. And it makes me question if these people play video games nowadays. Because this is something that you don't see often. Anyways, in here, they set him on fire. So the instant reaction to from the Cyclops is like, oh crap, I'm on fire, oh, I'm burning. But then they kill him. And I want you to watch the physics of that. He's like, oh, I'm hunched over, I'm dying. Oh no. Actually, they haven't killed him yet. He fell over, smacked his head against the mountain, and then, like, he's still alive. He's slowly dying. No, I think they might have just hit him, and maybe his health pool was not being properly represented. Maybe they killed him here, but, like, look at all the physics in that interaction. Like, I think that's absolutely impressive. I don't know about you guys, but anyways, this video is already way longer than I initially intended. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, but I wanted to go over these items here because I know that there's going to be concerns. Oh, is this stuff pay to win? What's the deal? Number one, let me just tell you, when it comes to pre-order bonuses and deluxe editions and all that stuff, I'm usually not a fan of them including in-game items in those situations, but let's go over these items real quick. So we have the Explorer's Camping Kit. This just seems to be a cosmetic for the camping kit, which I think this is something that you can buy in towns and you can set down camp in certain locations. If you have this thing, your camp looks fancier. Not a big deal. Kind of sucks. Not a big deal. 1,500 Rift Crystals. This is not a big deal. Usually most items that matter will cost you significantly more than that. Not a big deal. Again, I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just telling you in terms of like in-game power. 1,500 crystals is really not that big a deal. Dragon's Dogma Music and Sound Collection. This lets you change some of the in-game music and sound effects. Those are the original Dragon's Dogma. This I'm actually fine with. I don't think this is a big problem at all. As a matter of fact, I want to listen to the new stuff because I've played the old one. Unless you can get Dangan into free. If you can get Dangan into free by using this item, then this item is pay to win. I'm joking. Anyway, Wakestone is the item that we saw earlier in the gameplay footage, which I told you pay attention. See, Wakestone gets used up. Your character gets resurrected. So this is a consumable that you can just buy. Art of Metamorphosis is also a consumable that you can buy for Rift Crystals. In the original game, this costs 5,000 Rift Crystals. This basically is a character edit voucher. Assuming that they still sell these in-game for Rift Crystals, this is not a big problem. If, however, these are sold for real money, kind of sucks, but then again, just make sure that you make your character look the way that you want from the get-go. Harpy snare smoke beacons. This is some consumable that I'm assuming will snare, will bring harpies out of hiding. This ambivalent rift incense changes your pawn's inclination. This is so that you can kind of like min-max your pawn a little bit in case through your actions your pawn goes to, you know, becomes a certain way and you don't like it. This can change the pawn's behavior. Heartfelt pendant can be offered as gift. This is a gift that you can give to characters. Potentially, there will be romance options this time around. There were romance options in the original Dragon's Dogma, but it wasn't really a system that was fully fleshed out, and your romance option was only revealed at the end of the game based on the things that you've done throughout the game. Kind of weird. Makeshift jail key. I've never really been to jail often in Dragon's Dogma. I'm hoping this is a one-use key. If this is something that you can use multiple times, I'm definitely not a fan. But if it's a one-use key, I don't care. Now, the other ones that are more annoying is Superior Weapons Quartet. This is going to be something that is going to be slightly more powerful than your weapons at the beginning of the game. In the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal. I don't even understand why they do this. I never see these things as desirable at all, and I just think that it casts like an aura of ickiness around the whole thing. But these are not a big deal. Your weapons should be able to overtake these ones fairly fast unless they make them broken overpowered, but usually they don't. So I don't think this is a big deal, but it sucks. It does suck. I 100% agree. Okay. Ring of Assurance, I have no idea what it does. They don't tell you what it does, so I don't know if this is overpowered or not. A ring can do a whole bunch of things, so who the hell knows what this does. But yeah, those are the pre-order items. Anyway, like I said, this video is too long already. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you enjoyed this analysis. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe, bell notification icon, all of that jazz. I'm going to be playing the brakes off of this game when it comes out in March 22nd, 2024. Hopefully I'll see you there for the live streams and all of that stuff, because I'll tell you right now, after this game comes out, I ain't doing nothing else but playing this game for like the next month. But anyways, that's going to be it for now. Thank you very much for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe, bell notification icon, all that jazz. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace out.